And balloons, too. All colors.
Do they float?
Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float.
Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by Dan Haff, a guy that does everything from camera and electrical department to editing, acting, special effects, cinematography, and everything in between. Dan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. And it's funny, I've talked about having Jack of all trades on the show. You literally fit that bill, man. It's something that is so inspiring to me to see all the different things you do. So what's it like for you to be able to do all these things? Is it more of a benefit or a curse to be able to do all these things?
I think as a filmmaker, it's more of a benefit because I have a sense of everything that goes on, which helps in every department. Primarily, I mostly do post-production and editing. So working in cinematography, working in writing, all of that stuff helps me understand how to build the story better, how to really build the characters. But also at the same time, I can understand little nuances when I'm on set. Looking at the lighting, the camera angles, everything like that, and how it plays into telling the ultimate story that we're trying to achieve.
Sure. And that works out really, really well. And for all of you, you can follow him down here. All his social media links are down in the description. And Dan's been a part of Clown Fear, Devoured, and Morbid Stories, just to name a few, as well as the upcoming The Teenage Vampire, In the Light of the Moon, and The Curse of the Clown Motel. So man, all these different projects that are all coming at once, especially during COVID, with all the things that you do, for you on all these different things at one time.
What's that?
What was it like for you to be working on all these different things during COVID, trying to get? Because I know you do a whole bunch, like I said, with editing, acting, everything. Doing all of it, is it usually like you pace yourself like to one project at a time, or are you working on multiple projects all at once?
Usually multiple projects. We're currently in the delivery process of In the Light of the Moon. So we're going through the score, the VFX, all that stuff in post for deliveries. We just wrapped shooting The Teenage Vampire actually this past weekend on Saturday, which I think is going to be a pleasant surprise. We shot that one in less than 6 days. So really cranked that one out. But yeah, it's been since January, there's been 6 different features that I've been on. Either doing DIT, the digital image technician, handling all the media, or even just filling in as G&E, or also being part of the post-production, as well as a couple of times where I've had to pick up the camera and shoot myself as well. Sure. So it's constantly just having multiple projects going and just jumping from one to the next.
And that also keeps you busy though, yes, and it keeps your focus on everything, which is really, really awesome. So yeah, man, we know what you got coming up in the future, and we know what you're doing right now. But Dan, I want to take it back to the past, and I want to talk about how horror started for you. And your first horror movie was?
It was actually the first one I can remember was the original It on television. I grew up with an older brother that absolutely loved horror films. That's it. That's the one that to this day, I still am not comfortable around clowns, despite the fact working on, Curse of the Clown Motel and Clown Fear. Right. But yeah, my older brother loved horror films. He would always make me watch It. He would make me watch Child's Play, all of those movies. So I grew up watching a lot of them, but It was the one that I really remember most, really kind of terrifying me, because even in the parts where like the hero is succeeding, when they're going after Pennywise and all the beams of light coming out of his head, to this day, for some reason, it still scared me as a child.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of this movie that, because Pennywise is that shapeshifter and he can take shape of anything, it's really, that also plays on your fears, because he doesn't have to just be a clown. He can get to really whatever it is that scares you. And like you said, when when they're fighting him in the sewer and they got his hand and it turns into that big monster hand and goes down there's a lot that goes around with Pennywise. It's not just the clown. Oh yeah. So do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
I think that obviously, I think that a lot of people, the one that affected me the most is probably the opening scene with the boat going down into the sewer drain, which they recreated very well in the remake of it. But just watching that and seeing the face down in the sewer Like it always made me terrified that like when I was a kid, I would go for walks, I would see one of those drainage systems, and I would always kind of like peek in there. I'm like, can I see anybody? Is there anyone down there? It always made me very uncomfortable. But also the scenes when being in the library and seeing the balloon just floating around, or when they open up the refrigerator, all the balloons come out. It's like you never know when something is going to come out to get you.
Mm-hmm. And what I think, with the remake, obviously they went all out with the death scene with Georgie. But in this one, even though they don't show a lot, he grabs the arm, you'll float too. And then it's just the slow motion mouth coming towards them. Still is such a fearful scene because what's happening, even though you don't see it. And it's such a scary, scary scene.
And that's the thing that I love about a lot of older horror films is that a lot of it is you connecting the dots in your mind. You're not actually seeing it on camera, but you're connecting the dots and you are kind of making up your own imagery of what exactly is happening.
Yeah, using your imagination in it.
Mm-hmm.
And with this movie, it's obviously it's easy to say the clown, but when you think about it, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
Oh God, I think it's the that swamp area. Like they just the really creepy, abandoned, the kind of desolate feeling of that entire area where the kids were always going to play and searching for Pennywise.
Yeah. And it's that whole area too, like when you got Ben down there and his dad's there in the military uniform, like all of it, man. This movie plays on so many different levels.
It really does. And the way the story's connected between them as children and them as adults and how it affects all of them and how, what happened as a kid affected them as an adult. It's done so well.
Yeah. So this is a movie that obviously it's, 3 hours. It was made for TV. This was never released in cinema. So it's a long movie. But we talked about which scene affected you the most, Dan. But now I want to know, what is your favorite scene from the 1990 It?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I would have to say probably my favorite scene was when they finally confront him. The kids are standing around, they're cheering or like they're chanting. Facing their fears, now understanding like that, as you were saying, it can take the shape of just about anything. Them kind of taking the power back against this which leads to obviously the standoff and the slingshot with the stones and everything. It's such a powerful one, and to see all of these kids kind of come together in unison to kind of stand up against what's been terrifying them.
And like you said, it's awesome because it's the kids winning, and I just love how, kill it, Bev, kill it. And he's like, kill? And then they end up beating it. Like, that's what makes it even better.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go a little dark on you here for a minute, Dan.
Okay.
We talked about which scene affected you the most. We also talked about your favorite scene. Now I want to talk about we're horror fans. So we got to talk about the kills.
Yeah.
I hate saying which kill is your favorite because that is a dark way of putting it, but which kill stuck with you the most from it?
I mean, I would again go back to the opening scene with Georgie. That's the most powerful one to me. I mean, there were a number of good ones. It's also even I'm trying to remember the character's name, but when they find him in the bathtub as an adult,
Stan.
Well, yes, I should have remembered that. But I mean that stuck out with me because that wasn't even necessarily it. It was him to himself because of what he had gone through. Like that.
Right.
That death scene really stood out, and it wasn't a creature kill or anything like that. It was just, this is what this type of fear can drive someone to.
And it's almost like it killed him without doing anything, just the fear of knowing, and how he wrote it on the wall in his blood,
which I think makes it even more fearsome because it's you don't even have to have somebody there for this to happen. It's right. It can all be in your mind, and that's why I also think that this movie stood out so well to me as a kid is because it showed that all of these fears, they're more than just seeing a monster under the bed or seeing eyes outside of like an animal or something. It literally is a mental kind of I don't want to say issue, but a mental game that goes on that can really negatively affect you.
Oh, Pennywise is always playing with their minds. Always. Is it real? Is it not? What's real and what isn't. So that's another thing that really brings this movie home, because you never know if you can even trust the people around you.
Exactly.
Like the part where Ben is kissing Beverly and then it turns out that she's the clown. Like there's so many different times where Pennywise plays on them like that.
Yeah.
So Dan, we talked about your first horror movie being It and what that movie meant to you and how it affected you. But now, my friend, I want to go scream on you here for a little bit. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
I have a couple that I really enjoy. Some of them not necessarily scary, but one of my favorites is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that movie and the way that it was done, and how it's like a documentary, but then it becomes an actual slasher film. But it tells you everything that's going to happen in the slasher part of the movie, and you still don't necessarily see it coming.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And the fact that it plays off of the tropes of the serial killers, such as like, when they're doing the documentary portion, they have a whole training montage where he's like doing all of this cardio and stuff. And he even comments, he goes, it's hard because these kids are going to be running through the forest and we're all over the property, yet you have to keep up with them, but you have to make it look like you're walking.
Right.
It's such a fun movie. The other one that I also really love is Ginger Snaps.
Okay.
From
I just
up in
recently
Canada.
watched Ginger Snaps again. Werewolf movie, man.
Yes, I absolutely love that movie. It's so fun. It's so well done. I know the whole story and everything that it's supposed to represent. But it's just such a good movie. The characters are there, and it doesn't try to be more than it actually is.
Sure. Which is huge.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of movies nowadays seem to be trying to be bigger than they are, and they kind of lose sight of exactly the story that they should be telling.
Right. Exactly. And that's something we've talked about on here a lot, is maintaining who you are and what you are. Know what you're going for and get it.
Yes.
Bam.
Exactly.
So now I got a couple more questions for you before we go back to the skull count. Something I ask whenever we talk about a franchise or something like this, with a remake, you got It from 1990 and you have the newer, I count It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 as the same film. It's a continuation, but to me it's the same film. You just couldn't put out a 6-hour film. Yeah. Which of the two do you prefer between the miniseries and the remake?
I actually, this is going to be a little bit of a sad comment, but I actually haven't watched the remakes yet. Because the original stood out so well to me that it's been hard to bring myself to watch the new one, because I've heard very good things about it. But I don't want to taint that viewership that I had of the original one when I was younger. I know one of these days I'll get around to watching it. I think I actually do own it on Blu-ray. I just have never sat down to watch it. I thought the first one was done so well, despite even being a TV movie. That with all of the remakes that they've been doing over the last few years, that no matter how good they are, there's just something about them that doesn't live up to the originals, and that's kind of how I see this.
Right.
Plus, having Tim Curry as Pennywise, you can't really do much better than that.
Well, see, and I'm a big fan of the remake, and Bill Skarsgard did an amazing job as Pennywise. The practical effects he did with his eyes, that's all real. That's no CGI. That's him really doing all that. But I get what you're saying too, because to me, I prefer the Tim Curry Pennywise because he looks like a fun clown. Like he's a clown that a kid would approach and want to, as Bill Skarsgård is just fucking scary. Like that clown just looks scary. Yeah. But the good thing about the remake is it's not really a remake of the TV miniseries. It's just more of a retelling of the book, because there's a lot about the novel that they put into this that they didn't have the budget to put into the miniseries. So I call it the remake because that's what it essentially is. But to me, this is more of a retelling of the novel than it is a remake of the miniseries. So they both have their strong points. They both have their weak points. But I am a big fan of the remake. When you do end up watching it, shoot me a text. Let me know what you thought of it, because I really would like to know.
Hearing you talk about it, I might have to watch it this weekend just because I know with that being one of my first horror films, I know I should have seen it when it came out. But I couldn't bring myself to do it, just because it's like going back to watch your childhood.
Right.
but it's never going to be the same.
And Bill Hader completely nails it in this movie, man. Like the fact that he didn't win any awards for this movie is a robbery, because it's very, I can't even put it into words. Like his whole arc throughout It Chapter 2 is beautiful. The way they performed it, the way that it was written, the way that he nailed it. This movie made me realize that Bill Hader is more than a comedic actor. He is he can knock it out of the park when he needs to. So my friend, we always end these with the same question. We're going back to It, the 1990 miniseries, and we're ranking it on a skull count. Now, we're not being critics. We're not ranking it on production or cinematography or any of the such. We're ranking this strictly on what this movie means to you and how much this movie affected you. So 0 skulls being the worst, 5 being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. What would your ranking of the It miniseries be?
Oh God, that is a good question. I would have to say it would probably be up around a 4. Just because, you know, watching that, like I was born in 86, that this came out in 90. So I was young when I saw it, and it really affected me as a kid. This was one of those movies that I didn't sleep for weeks after watching it. So thanks to my brother. But
110-86, baby. I'm right there in the 86 with you.
Yes, it was a good year.
That was a great year.
But yeah, I think I would have to say 4. You know, I've seen a couple other horror films that kind of got to me a little bit more, maybe a little psychologically. But as a kid seeing that movie, I would definitely say I would give it a 4, just because it really did affect me as, you know, a 4 or 5-year-old watching this.
That's such a fair.
Yeah, it to this day, like I said, I've been saying it sticks out among all horror films to me.
Well, and it's one of those ones that, like you said, it started off, you know, it's a mini series. We watched this on Sunday nights on ABC, and it was still so good. You know, that's why, that is another reason I did like the retelling of the newer one, because they were able to do things that the mini series just didn't have the budget to do.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things where I very much enjoy it, and I feel the same way as you, because it took me a long time to see Child's Play 2019, which bums me out, man, because I love that movie so much. Like, I love that remake. I think they did a great job on it. But I was like you, I was like, no, fuck that. Child's Play is my jam. I don't want to remake it, you know, like. But then I watched it and I was like, damn, this is so fucking good. Like, it's so good. So
I'll have to watch
after you watch it, man.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to watch it this week then. Like I said, I've got at least part 1 downstairs, but I'll definitely get part 2. And sit down, maybe watch them both in one night and see how they compare.
Yeah, dude, definitely shoot me. Even if you hate them, like text me like you're an idiot.
I don't think I'll hate it. I don't think I'll hate it. It's just, like I said, it's a nostalgia factor. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, man, I really do appreciate you coming on here. I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but I'm gonna say it again, and I mean it. Make sure you're following his social media links. This guy works his ass off on every project that he does, and he deserves all our love, all our respect. And Dan, don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.